Welcome to 21st Sports Recap and Reaction for the St. Louis Rams at the San Francisco 49ers in their Week 17 matchup played January 3rd, 2016. As these NFC West division rivals were going at it, and no playoff implications in this game, but there would be some outcomes in the end, in the game and off the field. But to start things off, we're going to go over the scores and the stats and give our breakdown analysis. And in the first quarter, the Rams got on the board first. Greg Zuerlein hit a 33-yard field goal with about 8 minutes left in the first to make it 3-0 St. Louis over San Francisco. Then in the second quarter, less than 10 seconds in, Blaine Gabbert hit Anquan Boldin for a 33-yard touchdown. Phil Dawson added the extra point, and now the Niners were in the lead with their first points of the game, up 7-3. Phil Dawson hit a 26-yard field goal about 5 minutes later with 9 minutes still left before halftime to make it 10-3 as the Niners extended their lead to 7. But then with less than 3 minutes left, Greg Zuerlein hit his second field goal of the game, this one a 32-yarder to make it a 4-point game with the score San Francisco 10, St. Louis 6. Sims then came up with an interception. He picked off Gabbert, and that would set up a 4-yard touchdown run by Tre Mason with about 90 seconds left in the first half. And on that touchdown, Mason, as he crossed the goal line, then he fumbled it, but they ruled he had crossed the goal line before fumbling the ball. Either way, the Rams had jumped on it. It was going to be a touchdown for St. Louis. Greg Zuerlein added the extra point, and now the Rams were back in the lead by 3 with the score St. Louis 13, San Francisco 10. And then just before halftime, Greg Zuerlein hit a 44-yard field goal to make it 16-10. So the Rams extend their lead by 6 right at the half. So 16-10 going into the second half, and in the third quarter, Phil Dawson hit his second field goal of the game, this one from 28 yards out to make it a 3-point game with the score St. Louis 16, San Francisco 13 with about 9.5 left in the third. That would be the only score in the third quarter. And then in the fourth, with 4.5 minutes left in regulation, Phil Dawson hit his third field goal of the game, this one from 38 yards out, and this game was tied at 16. So the game tied at 16 apiece, and the game would come to a close, and we were headed to overtime. So regulation would come to a close. Now in overtime, San Fran would get the ball first, but they would end up punting after 6 plays on the possession as their drive would stall at midfield right at the 50. So now the Rams would take over after the punt on their own 19-yard line, and they would move the ball up towards midfield. And on 1st and 10 from the 40, Case Keenum hit Kenny Britt for an 18-yard reception, and now it was a first down at the 42. Then on a 2nd and 12, Keenum goes to Cunningham. He picks up 13, and it was a first down at the San Fran 31. And on 3rd and 9 from the 30, a run for no gain. They set up the field goal attempt to win the game as Greg Zuerlein came out to attempt the 48-yard field goal, but it was blocked. It was blocked by Johnson, recovered by Ward, and now Ward would run it back 18 yards to the San Francisco 26. The Niners would take over, and Gabbert would go to Harris. He picked up 6 yards, and a penalty for roughing the passer made it a first down at the San Francisco 47. Gafford then went to Smith. He picked up 15 yards, and that was a first down at the 38. Then on 2nd and 10 from the 38, after an incomplete pass on first down, Gabbert went to Patton. He picked up 33 yards, and now it was a first down in the red zone at the 5-yard line, 1st and goal. And the Niners didn't waste any time. They didn't run the ball. They didn't take a chance to turn it over. They just brought this game home as Phil Dawson hit a 23-yard field goal on first down with 3.5 still left in the overtime period. And they win the game 19-16. The San Francisco 49ers win their final game at Levi Stadium in 2015 to go 500 at home. They're 5-11 on the season. So 4-4 at Levi, and that's going to be the site of Super Bowl 50. The The Rams fall to 7-9. They had a chance to even up their overall record at 500. They're 2-6 on the road, one game below 500. Another losing season for Jeff Fisher and the Rams. And what was a promising year, they've got a lot of talent, and you got to wonder what's going to happen. Is Fisher going to remain in St. Louis? But there is no question as to the fate of Jim Tomsula, as he was fired after the game. So he couldn't win for losing. Or as he won, he's like, I won. And they're like, too bad, Tomsula, you're fired. And then Jim Harbaugh tweeted, don't be deceived. You will reap what you sow. So there you go. In the San Francisco, I mean, it was a year that started off in turmoil. You knew that it was going to be a losing season from the onset, or the outset, or whatever, how you were going to say. They had lost so many players. First, they run off one of the greatest coaches in football today, Jim Harbaugh, as he goes to Michigan and revitalizes the Wolverines program, and they're going to be probably the number one team heading into the, in the off-season polls. And they won big against Florida on New Year's. But the Niners, with all the switch over, all the changeover, Tomsula still from the Harbaugh coaching staff, the defensive lines coach, but he really never had a chance. He was kind of set up to fail in San Francisco. You almost wonder, was the whole season really just meant to, to take a dive and to get a good pick? Well, they'll end up with a good draft pick. But the Niners, they do get that win, but for what, So it was an interesting game. Came down to overtime, and Phil Dawson just kept kicking those field goals, as his 4 field goals would lift the Niners to victory. And Blaine Gabbert had a heck of a game. 28 for 44, 354 passing yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Harris had 16 carries for 67 yards. He also had 8 receptions for 86 yards, giving him 153 total yards in the game. Anquan Boldin had 5 catches for 71 yards and a touchdown. Torrey Smith, 5 catches for 61 yards in this game. And for St. Louis, Case Keenum, 22 for 37, 231 passing yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions. Tre Mason, 18 carries for 44 yards and a touchdown. Kenny Britt had 3 catches for 81 yards. And Cunningham, 4 carries for 38 yards, also 3 receptions for 34 yards. This he ended up with 72 total yards in the game. Tavon Austin, 6 carries for 32 yards and 5 receptions for 30 yards, as he had 62 total yards in the game. And Kendricks, 5 catches for 37 yards. We look at the kickers in this game. Phil Dawson was perfect, 4 for 4 on the field goals, 1 for 1 on the extra points, as he would win the game with the field goal there, the chip shot. And Greg Zuerlein, 3 for 5 on the field goals, 1 for 1 on the extra point. But on the defense for San Francisco, Hodges had a dozen tackles in this game. Bowman had a forced fumble. And for the Rams, Sims had an interception, and Long with a sack. Let me look at the team stats. 21 first downs for both the Niners and the Rams. On third down, San Francisco, 8 for 18, 44% conversion rate. And for St. Louis, 3 for 13, 23% on third down. Both teams went for it once on fourth, and both teams turned the ball over on downs. Let me look at total net yards. 458 for San Francisco, 364 for St. Louis. On the ground, the Rams netted 133, the Niners 108. Through the air, San Francisco netted 350 as Gabbert was sacked once for a loss of 4 yards. The Rams netted 231 and did not allow any sacks. Penalties in this game really hurt the Rams. 11 penalties for 105 penalty yards. 7 penalties against San Francisco for 60 yards. The Rams had 1 fumble, but they would recover it. And the Niners had 2 fumbles, and they also recovered both of their fumbles as well. And in the red zone, both teams struggled. St. Louis was 1 for 3, 33%. And San Francisco 0 for 4, as it truly was the dead zone, as these two teams combined to go 1 for 7 in the red zone. In the time of possession, 38 minutes and 30 seconds for St. Louis, 33 minutes and 3 seconds for San Fran. Of course, they played 11 plus minutes into overtime. But let me know what you think about this game and about these teams heading forward. As the Niners, they're a team that needs a whole lot. I really think that for the Niners to be good again, they're going to have new ownership. It's just the way things are going there is that this is just the beginning of what's going to be many rough seasons for San Francisco. As Harbaugh said, don't be deceived. You reap what you sow. And when you run off a winner, well, what's going to be left is losers. And that's what happened. Sad to say, a team that was, so close to winning a Super Bowl a few years ago and now is just on the bottom, one of the worst teams in football. And St. Louis is a team that's got a lot of talent, and they're on the verge, and you wonder what is it that they need to take them to that next level. Jeff Fisher is a good coach, but you wonder if they need a coaching change. Really, the thing that's been missing in St. Louis is a quarterback. They finally got their running back. Of course, Gurley didn't suit up for this game, but he had quite the year, and you just got to wonder what's going to be the solution for the Rams. They've got a really good defense. And even the Niners, they showed some flashes, especially on defense. They actually outplayed what I expected from San Francisco in this season, as they managed to actually be one game above their low back in 2005 when they were 4-12. And I actually thought that it was going to be a rough year for San Francisco. I didn't think they would win this many games, even though they only won 5. So I thought Tomsula actually did a pretty decent job, but he gets the axe anyway. But let me know what you think in the comments section below. Definitely interested to read your thoughts and opinions. Thank you very much for listening. It's greatly appreciated. I hope you're having a good week and having a great weekend and enjoying all the sports.